Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I think that the discussion we've just had is such a fantastic distillation of themes that we've explored at this forum over 11 years. And I remember so clearly when we began this work here in Doha 11 years ago, when there was so much tension, so much misunderstanding, when something like the incident of Terry Jones would have sparked a fierce argument. And today I think we've heard about all the efforts that have been undertaken in the United States, in Europe, in Muslim-majority countries around the world to build bridges, to work together, and to come together around common ideas and understandings for equal citizenship, for mutual respect, and to find a way forward together. So I think it's a tremendously encouraging note on which to end our plenary sessions. Now, all of you have spent the last 3 days in working groups and in one action group engaged intensively in those efforts at common endeavor that are at the heart of the work that we do. And in a few moments, Dr. Will McCants, the project's director, will summarize for all of us the findings that have come out of your work. But before we do that, we're very honored to have, on behalf of our partners in the Qatari Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Ibrahim Al-Naimi, who is representing our partners to provide some closing remarks. Dr. Al-Naimi and his work, I think, represents the efforts at Interfaith Dialogue, at Common Endeavor on education and human development that we have all committed ourselves to through his work as chairman of the Doha International Center for Interfaith Dialogue, which you've heard a bit about already today. And we're very, very pleased to have you here, Dr. Al-Naimi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. In the name of Allah, most
as possible. I'm going to talk in English, so probably some need to use their headphones or Okay. Respected ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, I thank the organizing committee of this U.S. Islamic World Forum 2014 to give me the opportunity to conclude this very important event. I enjoyed this session, and I was here the first day. I wasn't here yesterday, I was quite busy. But I think this conference, is like the previous ones, is a very successful one. So we'd like to close it at that note. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قال الله تعالى وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. And we have sent you, O Muhammad, not but as a mercy for the al-Alameen, mankind, jinns, and all that exists. I begin with this verse from the Holy Quran, from Surah Al-Anbiya. Firstly, there is no clearer message than this that covers every aspect of what it means to live a Muslim life, and that is mercy. Mercy for all that exists. We have to remind ourselves at the end of this inspiring gathering of intellectuals and activists from the broad spectrum of Muslims and other religions from all the world that Islam and its conversation with Europe and America is not new. There have been many occasions in the past where our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam has been part of the conversation of what it means to be European and American in medieval and early modern history. Poets like Goethe and Emerson have been in conversation with the central organizing text of Islamic life, that is the Holy Quran. Moreover, there have been both positive and negative perceptions perpetuated of our beloved Prophet Muhammad and the central focus of reverence and imitation for the worldwide Muslim community. There are historically rooted prejudices in European literature, from Milton's Paradise Lost to the tale of the three impostors and the more recent satanic verses that all depict our prophet in a negative light. Yet, these negative perceptions were fundamentally important for Europeans to understand who they were in opposition to the Muslims, other that was conceived as the enemy by both church and state. We are reminded again and again by the best exemplars of all our religions that the first step in leading a religiously sincere life is to begin by getting rid of prejudice against our fellow human beings. This is the basis of living an ethical life. We also have to begin by not looking down upon our brothers and sisters who share our own faith and who we consider less mature and developed intellectually, physically, or economically than ourselves. This is also the starting point for an economical feeling or the feeling of belonging to one ummah. Secondly, I remind you that Islam is nothing but a socially transformative project. Our beloved Prophet attracted much hatred in his enemies because he wanted to transform society on the basis of ethics and justice. Qatar's position in the world and in the region is a hallmark for living upon the prophetic call of justice to be established where possible. Otherwise, reconciliation must be attempted. We hear plenary discussions on Syria and Palestine, where we morally support the aspiration of the masses, even if they are against the rulers or occupiers of those countries. There is no shortcut to dealing with extremism other than through tackling injustice in society. We believe in speaking truth to those with power and hope that we inspire others to do the same in their respective contexts. We also implore to our fellow Muslims to not transgress the boundaries of Islamic ethics of moderation, which is a model that Qatar has lived upon and continue to aspire towards. We are developing strategies of facilitation between parties who have been at conflict. Our recent interventions in Libya, Afghanistan, and Darfur are examples of such facilitations. At the end of the day, the real lasting solution lies in the hands of the peoples themselves. No external support can do more than facilitate peace. I quote here the American essayist and poet Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay on heroism that begins with the epigraph from our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, statement that paradise is under the shadow of swords. Emerson, however, did not perceive our Prophet Muhammad as a violent prophet, as many contemporary critics of Islam believe. He instead portrayed the Prophet of Islam as a man of self-control. He says, and quote, "Every great and commanding moment in the annals of the world is the triumph of some enthusiasm. The victories of the Arabs after Muhammad, who in a few years from a small and mean beginning established a larger empire than that of Rome, is an example." Unquote. Here, Emerson advocates that the ascendancy of Islam was not due to the sword and violent expeditions of expansion, but rather faith in God and the universal appeal that so many people find in Islam. Thirdly, I remind you that the message of Islam is all-inclusive and is for the greatest good of all. Here in Doha, we are attempting to create a society based on Islamic principles that attempts at including perspectives and experiences from around the world in our effort to create a just and modern society. And I think Dr. Yusuf spoke about it just a few minutes ago. I refer back to Emerson's theory of oneness, which is most clear in his essay, Over Soul, in which he argued that mankind should be united, like, and quote, the water of the globe being all one and truly seen, its tide is one, unquote. The topic of the soul is in fact one of the main sources of truth and the catalyst of spiritual growth for Emerson. He said, within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one, unquote. I end with the poet by Goethe, the famous German poet, who says in his universal message, cutting across the clash of cultures, God is in the West, God is in the East. Northern and southern islands rest in his hands peace. This was surely inspired by the Quranic verses from Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. To God belongs the East and the West. Wherever you go, there will be the presence of God. I'd like to highlight also the work of the Doha International Center for Interfaith Dialogue, which has been working since 2007 in the field of promoting coexistence between followers of different faiths. We have hosted 11 annual conferences since 2003 on a wide spectrum of themes, including youth empowerment, social media, freedom of religion, solidarity, and education. We have worked in conflict zones like the Balkans, and we have spread the message of interfaith dialogue outside closed sessions and into the mainstream of society. We hope the participants will take this interfaith-friendly message of Qatar and the Doha International Center for Interfaith Dialogue to their respective homes. I wish you a safe return journey in God's protection. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Naimi. Now it falls to me the impossible task of summing up all of your working group proceedings. Thank you. Each of the conveners of the working groups had to summarize the past 3 days' proceedings in 3 bullet points. None of them were happy about it. But here they are. Because I have academic training and not training as an artist, these slides are not as pretty as the beautiful surrounding, as you'll see. There we go. The first group we're going to talk about is the group on empowering Pakistan's civil society to counter violent extremism, which was convened by Robert Lamb, Hedia Miramati, and Waleed Ziad. The first finding of the group was that they need to work with a broad range of stakeholders to counter violent extremism in Pakistan. And that would include reputable civil society organizations, members of the National Assembly, local police, and alumni of U.S. government-funded programs for peace building and countering violent extremism at the grassroots level. Partnership between the local government and civil society is particularly important. The second finding is the need to improve long-term training in the United States government for countering violent extremism in Pakistan, and to create a centralized database of local partners countering violent extremism projects and good practices. The third finding is the need to identify ways to help Pakistanis understand the constraints of the U.S. government, and vice versa, to help the U.S. government better understand the constraints and environment of Pakistani civil society organizations, possibly through an advisory council of civil society organizations engaged in peace building. Field research in Pakistan is particularly important. The next group we're going to look at is Justice in Post-Conflict Settings, Islamic Law, and Muslim Communities as Stakeholders in Successful Transition, convened by Hamid Khan, Sharif Bassiuni, and Corey Zoli. The first finding or goal is that the working group will continue to identify the principles of post-conflict justice that are consistent with Islam. The second is that these principles have to be useful in states in the midst of conflict as well as those in post-conflict transition. And the third is that these principles should be part of a larger effort to remedy human development deficits in the Muslim world. The third working group is Muslim Communities in Europe and North America, a transatlantic dialogue on contextualized religion, convened by Peter Mandeville and Dilwar Hussain. The first finding is that in these efforts to develop a more contextual approach to Islam in Europe and North America, they'll need to confront fundamental challenges around gender equality if there's to be any progress. Second, there's an urgent need to generate institutional support to unlock potential for contextual solutions to issues faced by Muslims in these countries. To this end, venture philanthropy from Muslims and others is needed for increasing educational and research capacity to advance strategic and intellectual visions. The third finding is that for these contextual approaches to Islam to work, they have to be accessible to the broader Muslim publics. To that end, the group envisions developing innovative publications and multimedia formats that combine theology, academic work, the arts, and community life, including online, social media, and other digital components. The final group was the experiment for this year. It was the new action group. The hope with the action group concept is that by bringing together a group of energetic activists, academics, business people, civil society folks, that they would be able to create something of enduring value that would make a difference in the world, particularly in Muslim majority countries. This year, the action group was spearheaded by Mani Ali Ansar, Salif Niang, Cynthia Snyder, and Chris Shields. And it is an effort to bring and restore the cultural heritage of Timbuktu after it was overrun several years ago by militants in the north. The Timbuktu Renaissance, as it's being called, offers an integrated approach in supporting and reviving culture of Mali, and in countering terrorism and generating economic growth. All these three things are to work together. The initiative includes returning the music festival to Timbuktu, restoring, digitizing, and exhibiting Timbuktu's rich heritage in Islamic manuscripts, and developing a cultural center or incubator in Timbuktu. As many of you know, because you probably saw the security wandering the halls, the government of Mali was very interested in this initiative. The president of Mali himself attended several sessions of the working group for hours at a time. And so they have the government of Mali's full support in this endeavor. And the action group also anticipates that if this model is successful, which they believe it will be, that it could have relevance and serve as a model beyond Timbuktu and Mali. That concludes the summary of the working groups in the action group, and you don't have to look at my hideous slides anymore. I've got a list of thank yous I'd like to go through before we conclude the forum. And somewhere in there I have to work in some administrative stuff too, but I'll see if I can do it artfully. First of all, I would like to thank the government of Qatar, especially His Highness the Emir, the Prime Minister and Minister of Interior, His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser, and the Foreign Minister, His Excellency Dr. Khalid Al-Attiyah. I would also like to thank His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed Athani and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for his continuing support of the U.S. Islamic World Program, and His Excellency Rashid Al-Khalifa for his support of this conference. I want to give a special thank you to Ambassador Abdullah Fakhru, if he is anywhere in here. I can't see because of the lights, but if he's in here, a big thank you to him and his staff for hosting this lovely event. And also a thank you to Zoom, the company that helped put together the lovely stage and to handle all the logistics for the program. In addition to thanking the government of Qatar, I also want to thank Brookings Acting Vice President for Foreign Policy, Ted Picone, and the Director of Saban Center, Tamara Wittes, for all their help in putting together this program. I also want to thank the Brookings staff from Washington for all of their hard work, particularly those that came here and made the long trip to help out. I particularly want to mention Tina Trenkner and Rebecca White for putting together the communications for this program. And a special thanks also to Salman Sheikh and his staff at the Brookings Doha Center for all of their help over the past few days. A very special thank you to my team at the U.S. Islamic World Project, who endured many long hours to make this event possible. If anything went smoothly, it's all their contribution. If anything went off the rails, it's all on me. I don't know if any of them are in here. I can see Salma. Salma Huwaidi, Jamana Kadur, who is back there. She doesn't want to stand, but thank you. Elizabeth Pierce. And Ann Peckham. There you guys are. Stand up. Ann, stand up. Thank you. While I'm on the subject, and Ann's going to hurt me if I don't mention it, this is the administrative stuff. Lunch is going to be in the lagoon, where you usually have breakfast. And if you could please take a moment to fill out the evaluations that are in your seats, I'd appreciate it. One final thank you before we conclude this year's conference to all the participants who came. If it has been a success, it is certainly due to you. We've learned a lot from all of you and have gleaned some good ideas for next year's forum. Over the years, the participants have made and have transformed the forum from a talk shop into a do shop. And we are very excited to see what the future will hold. We wish you all a very safe journey home. Thank you very much.